This video was created using artificial intelligence, AI, for educational and narrative purposes. All characters and events are fictionalized representations inspired by historical realities. Viewer discretion is advised.
Why it sucks to be a 5-month-old golden retriever puppy abandoned where no family exists. My paws are still too big for my body, and I still trip over my own shadow when I try to run. I am only 20 weeks old, and yet I have already learned that the world is not made of soft carpets and warm milk. It is made of hot asphalt that burns the tender skin of my feet and a sun that beats down on my golden fur until I feel like I am melting into the dirt. There is no shade here. There are no porches to hide under and no cool tiled floors to rest my belly on. This place smells like old rubber, dry dust, and the silence of people who do not want to see me. My stomach is a hollow cave that echoes with a hunger I do not know how to stop. I am a baby, meant to be learning how to sit for treats or how to fetch a ball. But instead, I am learning how to survive in a wasteland where the only thing that grows is my own fear. I sit by the side of this empty road, a tiny speck of gold in a world of gray, watching the horizon until my eyes ache. Yeah, I'm so smiling. This silence is so very loud. Every time a car passes without stopping, a little bit more of my spirit withers away like the dead weeds around me. If this story touches your heart and makes you think about those who have no voice, please consider subscribing to the channel and leaving a like on this video. It helps us reach more people who care about animals just like you do. Before we continue with my journey, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Please tell me, which city are you watching from today? And do you see many abandoned animals in the area where you live? Your comments help bring awareness to this cause. Before the dust and the heat became my only companions, my world was a very different place. I remember the scent of fresh coffee and toasted bread in the mornings. I remember the sound of footsteps on wooden floors, a sound that always meant someone was coming to play with me or tell me I was a good boy. My name is Beau, or at least that is what Thomas used to call me. Thomas was my whole world. He had strong hands that used to scratch that perfect spot behind my ears, and he had a laugh that made my entire body wiggle with joy. I spent my early weeks chewing on the edges of his expensive leather shoes and sleeping on a plush blue rug that smelled like home. I thought that life was a promise. I thought that when a human picks you up and looks into your eyes, they are saying that they will be there forever. I was a happy puppy. I was an innocent soul who believed that every door led to a room full of love, and every hand was meant for kindness. I didn't know that love could be conditional. I didn't know that a 5-month-old puppy could become a burden just by growing a little bit bigger or needing a little more attention. The day everything changed started like any other adventure. Thomas grabbed my leash, and my tail started thumping against the floor like a drum. I loved the car. I loved the way the wind felt against my face and the way the world turned into a blur of colors through the window. I licked Thomas's ear, and he didn't even push me away. He just stared straight ahead at the road. We drove for a long time, leaving the city noises behind. The tall buildings disappeared, replaced by flat fields and endless stretches of brown earth. When the car finally stopped, we were in a place where the trees looked tired and the air was still. Thomas opened the door and led me to a patch of dry grass. He held a yellow squeaky toy in his hand, my favorite one. He threw it as hard as he could, far into the weeds. I ran after it, my heart racing with excitement, thinking this was the best game we had ever played. I found the toy and turned around, proud of my catch, ready to drop it at his feet. But the car door was already closing. I heard the engine roar, and I saw the red taillights disappearing into a cloud of thick, choking dust. I ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they were going to snap. I barked until my throat was raw, but the red lights never slowed down. They just got smaller and smaller until they were gone, leaving me alone with my yellow toy in a world that had suddenly gone cold. At first, I didn't move from that spot. I sat by the edge of the dirt, keeping my yellow toy close to my paws. I thought it was a test. I thought Thomas wanted to see if I was a brave boy who could stay put until he came back. 1 hour passed, then 2, then 5. The sun began to slide behind the hills, turning the sky into a bruised purple color. The temperature dropped, and I started to shiver. My puppy fur is soft, but it isn't thick enough to keep out the bite of a desert night. Every sound made me jump. I heard the distant howls of creatures I didn't recognize, and the rustling of the bushes felt like monsters reaching out for me. I felt like a piece of herba trash, something someone had finished with and tossed out the window without a second thought. I wasn't a dog anymore. I was a ghost. I tried to sleep, but my dreams were full of the sound of car engines and the smell of Thomas's cologne. When morning came, the heat returned, and with it came a thirst that felt like needles in my throat. I tried to walk, looking for water, but everything was dry. I saw a few cars pass in the distance, and I tried to stand up and wag my tail, but they didn't even tap their brakes. To them, I was just a blur of yellow in the distance, a stray that wasn't worth the time. Days turned into a blur of pain and confusion. My beautiful golden coat, once so soft and clean, was now matted with burrs and caked in mud from a stagnant puddle I found. I lost weight so quickly that my ribs began to poke through my skin like the rafters of a broken house. I felt myself disappearing. I wasn't a puppy who played anymore. I was a scavenger who spent my hours sniffing for a scrap of anything that might stop the cramping in my stomach. I found an old fast food wrapper by the road and licked the grease off it until my tongue bled. The loneliness was worse than the hunger. A dog like me is built for connection. We are built to be part of a pack, to have a leader, to have a purpose. Without a human to tell me I was good, I didn't know who I was. I started to wonder if I had done something terrible. Maybe I had chewed the shoes one too many times. Maybe I had barked too loud at the mailman. I sat in the dirt and apologized to the wind, hoping that if I said I was sorry enough times, the universe would send Thomas back to get me. But the road remained empty, and the sky remained indifferent. The moment I truly gave up happened during a heavy rainstorm. The sky opened up and poured down a cold, relentless gray. I tried to find shelter under a thin, thorny bush, but the water soaked through my fur in seconds. I was shivering so hard that I couldn't keep my head up. My yellow toy had been washed away into a ditch days ago, and I didn't even have the strength to go look for it. I felt a deep heaviness in my chest, a feeling that went beyond exhaustion. It was the feeling of a light going out. I curled into a tight ball, tucking my nose under my tail, and closed my eyes. I decided that I didn't want to wake up anymore. I didn't want to feel the hunger, or tea thirst, or the crushing weight of being unwanted. I thought about the blue rug in the kitchen and the sound of Thomas's laugh. And I let those memories be the last things I held on to. I was a 5-month-old baby, and I was ready to die in a ditch because no one had told me I was worth saving. I felt the mud rising around me, and I welcomed the darkness. Then, through the fog of my fading consciousness, I heard a sound. It wasn't the roar of a fast car or the howl of a coyote. It was the sound of a door opening softly and the crunch of footsteps on the wet gravel. I didn't open my eyes. I didn't want to be disappointed again. But then, I felt something I hadn't felt in a lifetime. I felt, It wasn't a hand that hit, or a hand that threw a toy away. It was a hand that trembled slightly as it touched my matted fur. I heard a voice, a woman's voice, and she wasn't yelling. She was crying. She called me a poor baby. She called me a sweetheart. She smelled like lavender and damp earth, a scent that felt like a bridge back to the land of the living. She didn't care that I was covered in filth or that I smelled like decay. She wrapped me in a thick, warm blanket that smelled like laundry detergent and sunshine. For the first time in weeks, the shivering stopped. She lifted me up, my head falling against her shoulder, and carried me to her car. As the heater began to blow warm air over my frozen body, I felt a tiny spark flicker back to life in my heart. The healing didn't happen overnight. For a long time, I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of the sound of a car starting, and I was afraid of being left alone in a room for even a minute. But Elena was patient. She didn't ask anything of me. She just sat on the floor with me, feeding me small bits of boiled chicken and talking to me in that soft, musical voice. She brushed the burrs out of my fur until it began to shine like gold again. She watched me grow from a scared, skeletal puppy into a strong, confident dog. My paws finally fit my body, and my tail found its wag again. I still have a small white star on my chest, a reminder of the light that almost went out. Sometimes, when I am lying on the porch of Elena's house, watching the sunset, I think about the road. I think about how easy it is for one person to destroy a life and how much effort it takes for another to rebuild it. I am not a ghost anymore. I am a dog with a name, a home, and a future. I look at Elena, and I see a hero. She didn't have to stop. She could have driven past just like all the others. But she chose to see me. She chose to believe that a broken, muddy puppy in a ditch was worth her time and her love. The world is a big place, and it can be very cruel to those of us who have no power, but it only takes one person to decide that kindness is more important than convenience. I used to think that the road was the end of my story, but it was actually just the beginning. I have learned that humans have the power to break hearts, but they also have the power to mend them. Every animal deserves a hand that stays, a heart that remembers, and a home that never closes its doors. It only took one human to change everything. And because of her, I finally know what it means to be a good boy who is truly home.